they're all sitting down just right now. So you probably call roll call if you wanted to. On that.
Yeah. Last minute after that. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I would like to thank everybody for being here for the Main Street Board Transformation Strategy Identification Meeting for April 28th here at the City Chambers Building. I want to thank Norma, Lee, and Josh. I'm so sorry for coming down and joining us this evening, and also to everybody else that's here in attendance tonight. This is not a special meeting by any means, so we do not have to take roll call. So we can just turn everything over to our National Main Street Board. And thanks again.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah.
That way they can hear you on Zoom.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be in your community and experience directly this sense of revitalization that you're all working on. I'm Norma Ramirez de Mies, Norma Mies for short. I am the Vice President of Revitalization Services for Main Street America. I'm very happy to be here in person after a couple of virtual meetings, right? And with me is a team from the Michigan Main Street. And we have Lee Young, who is the senior specialist for Michigan Main Street, and definitely the one that you're going to often talk with about the organizational development of your program and other resources. And then we have Josh Prosek. Maybe I mispronounced it. Thank you. Who has also joined the Michigan Main Street team as the Economic Vitality Specialist. So we have an opportunity to work with you tonight on going through a number of pieces. One is the information we gathered from the surveys that you all promoted to get input from the community, and then also the opportunity to look at market information. And then from there, we will share some of the recommendations that we want to offer and work with your board and making decisions that are informed to see how we get this program going. So with that, we have a presentation here. I wonder if I may ask, again, there's a lot of people that probably bear with me as I don't remember yet faces and names coming together if I've seen you in person, but please feel free to interact if you have any questions or comments to make. So, okay, so looking at, and hello to all those of you who are joining us online. Best wishes for a quick and good recovery to Dusty. I'm hoping that you feel well from that surgery. Looking at the beginning, we want to just highlight that these efforts, if you don't mind, Michelle, going through the next slide. That's it. When we look at downtown revitalization, communities often feel that all of this is definitely an overwhelming journey. And what we often say that it's in our tag, in our logo, is that Main Street truly is a program that has been nationally recognized, but at the end of the day, the power is within your communities, each of the communities that are part of our program. When we look at local revitalization, that means that it's not just this board, but it is the community that needs to come together and say, this is my downtown, and I wanna see it vibrant and successful. And so we believe that local revitalization depends on the Main Street program really building that buy-in from the community and the opportunity to bring the community together, all sectors, every age, everybody, really looking at what can we do together with downtown, for downtown, to really promote the identity and the sense of place of our community. But you are not alone as a community. You are supported by a network of communities across the state of Michigan. And that is next in that model of collaboration that we have. You are supported by communities that are also revitalizing their downtowns across the state. And Michigan Main Street as a program at MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, really looks at supporting the communities, guiding you, and assembling resources to support your efforts. And then lastly, that donut gets even bigger when you think of all the communities that are across the country also as peers. You might think, we wonder if this could be done or has been done, and whether it's a facade improvement grant or an event or thinking about what is strategic for space. There's a lot of best practices and examples of lessons learned that I'm hoping you reach out to your community peers across the country. So again, this is an opportunity to say you're not alone. You're now part of a network of communities revitalizing downtowns and bringing back vitality to the heart of their communities, not only across the country, but across Michigan. And we are definitely committed to working with you. Continuing on that is what Main Street is. And again, our focus is on local revitalization of downtown, commercial, and historic districts. And so when we think of the program, think of a twofold approach with Main Street. On one hand, we want to revitalize the district. In other words, with you, this downtown can be vibrant, right? And you will decide what that vibrancy means. And we don't come to you to tell you what to do. We make recommendations, but it is going to be an opportunity for you to make those decisions based on information. We do recommend informed decision-making, that it could be strategic and through consensus building. But on the other hand, is how we go about it. In many communities, what we do sometimes is done by few. You know, the ones that are always doing everything, you know those, right? And so you are probably part of that effort. But what we really see as a sustainable effort, not just for this year, not only for next year, but truly for long-term, for the future of your community, is the opportunity to let the community and empower the community for them to say, we will do this together. And so what we want to achieve and how we want to achieve it is important in the Main Street approach. And we believe that our approach can be used to build comprehensive revitalization. In the past, communities looked at physical improvements and say, if we make them pretty, if we make our streets pretty, if we make our buildings pretty, they will come. And that not always happened. Sometimes in the process, we kill businesses in the, in the journey of doing things better, block their traffic from going to their doors, et cetera. Main Street believes that it's a parallel of 4 points. And I'll explain that in the next slide. When we look at economic vitality, is the opportunity to really look and see what's your base of businesses that you have in downtown. Usually in downtowns, we have small businesses. So Main Street is about supporting the businesses we have. How can we help them be successful? And working with property owners to look at the space and say, what's the best use of your space? How strategic can we be so that it can complement the downtown business environment and make it stronger? It's not longer about, oh, whoever comes gives me the money and I'll get you in. If that's the way we've been doing business, let's do it differently through Main Street. And the opportunity to then say that the space is important, but it has to be used strategically. For Main Street, preservation of our historic fabric is crucial because that historic fabric speaks about your identity. Let me tell you, I arrived last night. And I go to communities all the time, and what a wonderful feeling that you have of arrival. I definitely knew that I had arrived somewhere special. Why? Because you do have character. And of course, you have made it that in the evenings, we can see the beauty of the lights as well. And so the physical environment, when enhanced, when strategically used, really can be such a sense of play, give people such a sense of place and vitality. But we also look at the opportunities to say, hey, community, what's your identity? And how do you want to promote it? And really highlight through your downtown that your community is unique and it can be a destination, not only for your locals, but also for your visitors. And so promotion is an opportunity to say that we can position downtown as the place that will be the heart of the community, but also the heart of people to see that this community has something unique to offer. When we come to communities, we often arrive through corridors, right? Everybody goes to communities and says, okay, so where am I? Through your corridors, they're similar, right? I can go through one side or the next, and I do see industry, or I do see everything else that everyone else has. Nothing necessarily that says, I've arrived into this specific community. But when you go to a downtown and you get that sense of place, that is something that highlights who you are as a community. So we're gonna work with you so that positioning, improvement of the space, and support to the business environment can be done. But at the end of the day, the fourth point of the Main Street approach is about who makes it happen. When your community makes it happen, then your community will sustain it. And that's what Main Street believes by building consensus and bringing everybody together. So this is the Main Street approach for revitalization. This is the foundation for the framework that we're gonna use, that you have accepted, invited us to be part of. When we look at Main Street, then we say, okay, so how do we go about implementing this 4-point approach? Then we say there's a journey that we're all embarking in, and it starts with community's input. What's the vision of this community? So that's why you were asked to invite the community's input. Take a look and see what everybody's thinking with just a few questions, non-threatening. Hey, what do you think of downtown? What comes to mind when you see? And people were very honest at telling us. With that process, then we join not only the input from the community, but also then say, okay, what's the market telling us that this community is looking like or that can sustain? And then we put those two pieces together and then bring some recommendations to you that we are calling transformation strategies. Basically, direction that can be used to make decisions on how we're going to go about, what is it that we're going to focus on, what are the priorities. So transformation strategies provide that strategic direction to move forward. Instead of saying, oh, I saw that this happened in the neighborhood, where I went on vacation, and I just think that we can make it happen here. It is about what your community wants and what your market is telling us that it can sustain. Although many things that can be copied, what we hope is that you and your revitalization effort looks like Adrian, and that you are all proud to say, this is our heritage, this is our revitalization efforts. After that, then we get into work planning. Like we say in Main Street, we plan the work and then we work the plan so that we can then strategically follow that direction and come back to the community after we measure the success and say, look what we've achieved, whether it's a year, 3 years. Here is what Main Street is doing with your support. Let's move forward with additional input. So that circle is always flowing with input from the community, but also with engagement from the community. So having said all that, now let's take a look and see what you told us as a community. We had the opportunity to conduct meetings virtually because of the circumstances, and we gather a lot of information from all of you that have participated in virtual meetings. But in addition to that, there was a survey that was sent out, and we got over 1,000 responses. So 1,017 responses to be exact. And really appreciate that response. And let me tell you how that, and you can see it there, that the community provided, from the community survey, we received 511 responses. From the youth survey, we received 493 responses. And we also had a leader survey of 13 leaders that responded. And you might say, well, why the leaders? Well, we like to ask the leaders what you think at the beginning, see how it aligns with what the community is saying to see if you have the pulse of your community. And also really compare the community, the leaders, and the youth survey to see if everybody's aligned or everybody's having a different perspective. All of it is valuable. Comparing your demographic information with regards to 20,000 people in your community, then 1,017 surveys means 5% response. And so we're very pleased with that. And of course, that doesn't mean that we end and say, okay, no more questions, no more asking people what do they think. Main Street will continually invite people to provide their feedback. What do you think? Do you feel that that's a good level of response? Good. Very good. I'm glad you're happy, because I am very impressed with, especially with the youth response. I have to say that definitely set the tone of, and you'll see that we want to be mindful, because in a community where about 21% of your population is younger than 18, 1 out of 5 people, then that basically means we need to pay attention to what our young people are telling us, right? But in addition to that, 17% of your population is older than 65. So we also need to be attentive to that. With all these surveys, let's take a look at who responded. When we ask, how old are you? Okay, so the community survey included this, all these ages, all these ranges. So as you can see, the biggest range, we got about 20% of the responses within the community survey were people younger than or in between 18 years old and 24 years old. So that is a great opportunity to highlight. That is the perspective that we have in this survey. When we look at under 18, in other words, some youth also responded, or instead of responded to the community survey, that was about 10%. So that's about 50 people under 18 and about basically 100 people. No, let's see, 200 people in the 18 to 24. And then you see the other ages where we can say adults with families perhaps in different formats. And you see that we had the opportunity to say that about 15, 16, or 17% in different ranges. When I compare that then to your demographics according to the census, we see a very good sample. And we're very happy that that is a good alignment. The youth survey also said that about more than 60% of the responses came from people between the ages of 14 and 18. So high schoolers perhaps. And so college students in the community survey responded, but also perhaps the 11 through the 13 is another group that I'm very pleased to see. It's more than a third of the survey. So youth and young people are giving us their perspective as much as the adults as well. So we believe this is a good sample of your community to understand that the perspectives that were shared are going to give us very good direction. So with that, let's take a look now at the questions. We asked the community, the youth, and the leadership, what are some of the things that you like about downtown Adrian? So let's stop there and say, let's take a look at this word cloud we put words together in what is called a cloud, just to highlight the bigger the word, that's the word that got the most number of times as far as the word used by people. When you think, what comes to mind when you think about things you like about downtown Adrian? What people responded in the community survey is historic, is the number one word. Not surprised to me now that I see you're downtown. Definitely has strong historic character, a strong environment of history, an outstanding building stock. From somebody that travels across the country, I can say you should be very proud of the type of building stock that you have. It's just amazing, very, very impressive. Your community says so as well. That's what comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind, as you can see, is the theater, right? The Opera House, Roswell. Also very evident at night when I drove by and see the beautiful lights. And so those are opportunities to say, with the community, they had in mind place, that sense of place, and some of the amenities between Roswell and food, the fact that it's walkable, the fact that you have good parks, shops, and they talk about the buildings a lot as well. The leaders survey responses then focuses more, as you can see, in the restaurants, in the variety of businesses, the arts. And so while the community is focusing on the sense of place, your leadership base is focused on the uses or the amenities of downtown space. And then let's take a look at the youth. The youth then tells us what they're focused on. What is that? Food. Is it a surprise to you that our youth is thinking about food? No, it's great when they think of downtown as the place to go and eat, right? And so while the community focuses on the sense of place, on the space, the leaders focus on the uses, the youth focuses on that experience between the food, the fun that they can have in the downtown as well. The lights at Christmas time, they said, the tree, looking at all your feedback is wonderful to see the different perspectives. All of these will be used by the Main Street program to really take a look and saying, what are some of the projects, priorities, initiatives we need to focus on? Not only to highlight in our marketing what everybody is looking as a strength, but also to be mindful of the next question. What are some of the things that when we think of downtown, we don't necessarily like? The positive word for that is dislike, right? So let's take a look at what the community say. The community also looking at space told us they don't like that downtown looks empty. They want more shops. They want more activities. They want to take care of the blight. They want to take care of the buildings. Is it a surprise to you? No. Let's take a look and see what the youth told us about the survey, or the leaders then, I guess. Then you as leaders told us that you don't like that there's not enough shopping, that there's vacancy, that you would like places to go and buy things for special occasions like gifts, clothing, that there's a limited variety of things, etc. And then the youth told us that the place, again, is looking at perspectives, while community in general is looking at space. That continues through these questions. Leaders are looking at the uses. The youth is looking at the experience. Feels like it's boring, nothing to do. And so they're telling us again what we need to look at, that they would like more people, more crowds. They want the place clean. They want the buildings that are old but not empty. And so in many ways, you all share common grounds with this information. And this information is going to be important, and it's going to be provided to you in spreadsheets so that you can go through the specifics. But just to give you an idea of what it was shared. Anything that comes to mind or, so far? Yes.
I see old with the dislikes for youth. And on the previous slide, historic was one of the biggest things that came in that word cloud for what's appreciated. So connecting youth with appreciating the historic part, basically, how do we make it more appealing and attractive?
Fantastic input, because when the community looks at historic, that basically means that there's some appreciation, just like you're saying. When the youth tells us old, to me, that's a lack of, information and education about what old means and how valuable it is. That's starting. So the opportunity to really incorporate education on the historic value of your community, perhaps through the school system, through some tours, social studies. Some communities have incorporated these efforts to say, let's take the youth so that they can see through tours of schools, through materials that are going to highlight, and then be able to help them. You're right, because old, sometimes for them, it just means it doesn't look taken care of as well. And it not only means, oh, that's old, how can I use it? What would be good to use it? That's education. When they say old and it is attached to not care for, that's also an opportunity to say, how do we work so that the buildings and the property owners and businesses and the community together, we can take pride. And I was looking at some of the storefronts. Unconsciously, sometimes we just put paper, for paper's sake, for not, looking and seeing what's the construction renovation going inside, right? In some ways, we need to really help the community foresee what's coming. Instead of boarding it up, we can say, this space is not empty, it's full of opportunity, and let people dream about that. Or you can ask people to dream about the space with QR codes, etc. So all that effort, it's about not only enhancing the perspective that the youth and the community might have when they drive downtown or come downtown, but also helping the experience be positive overall, right? So thank you for making that comment. Others?
I have a comment too.
Okay.
It's clear from the previous word cloud for the youth that candy is very important to them. So
Yes, and you definitely have some of those amenities that they enjoy here in downtown. I've been definitely telling myself before I leave, I need to stop and do some market research with those flavors that you have. Yes, and in the next slides, we're going to see what they tell us that if we could do things better, what would that look like? And so for the community, everybody wants more in downtown. That's the key word here, more, and everybody started saying more of what? And so more shops or stores. And again, when you see shop and stores, because everybody was free to put the word they want, they want a downtown that looks and feels busier, right? And they want the business hours to be such that they can actually go. And so we're gonna have to look at the Main Street programming and say, how do we work together with the businesses? Because if shopping is 80% of the shopping is done after 6 p.m. Are our businesses open when most people are shopping? If our community has a high commute of people going somewhere else and people have to come back after 5, when are we open? And if we're only open for the people that are able to shop between 8 to 5, we're limiting our market. And sometimes our businesses don't know that, and we need to help them understand the market opportunities, especially when it's about expanding our reach, right? And so that's an opportunity to say, how do we work with open hours? How do we work with more retail? That's what the community is telling us. The food is definitely a connector and something that they want more of, more events. You'll see opportunities to look at, at that information again. And the next one, the youth tells us that they want more as well. And similar ways, they want to see more shops, more stores, better type of activities or more fun. They said places to eat. Food connects you from all ages, it seems. And again, more activities for young people or kids. That's what they're asking as well. When we look at the next slide, you see and saying what businesses, when we ask the community, what businesses do you go most often or patronize? Here is the response. And you tell me, and again, I just want to say congratulations to the businesses that are a key driver for people to come downtown. The SAS, the bus, the SAS, I'm mispronouncing probably, Chomp, Roswell as well. And so you can see several names, all, and again, you'll see a list, but people do have several different destinations they want to come downtown. And if you're a business owner in that, do we have anybody from those businesses? What? No, thank you for this business owner. Anybody else business owners? So thank you for looking at the opportunities to bring people downtown. And again, that's in many ways the community telling us that food and special products and services are drivers for them. When we ask the youth, do you visit downtown? Why and why not? Here's what they tell us. A huge yes. They visit downtown, but many of them are saying sometimes, others are saying barely, others are saying they just drive by. And some are specifically telling us they come for events. Some are saying, no, I don't. And so those are opportunities. When we say, what do you do in downtown when you come to downtown? Many of them are saying, I walk around, we run, we go and visit places to hang out, and we bring friends, we go to the library, to the activities at the theater, and some of them are also telling us nothing. They come downtown and do nothing. And so again, and some are saying we come for First Fridays, others are saying we come for other events. So this is an opportunity to say what's driving our youth here or what's driving them away. So those are going to be key opportunities to keep in mind. Let's take a look at the other pieces of information, especially important for businesses. And it's going to be important for Main Street to work with you when we think of the community. Okay, so over 500 people were asked, what day of the week do you shop the most frequently, whether it's downtown or not? Not uncommon that their response was Saturday. Very common across the state, across the country. That is the day that people are saying they shop. Question then comes to, are our businesses in downtown open? This is a tool we're going to have to use and say, let's take a look and see when are you open. And in this community, Friday is another, it's about 20% of the responses, which basically then look at 100 people saying that they do their shopping on Friday. And then in the third place is Thursday. So you are probably the best at telling us what happens on Friday and Thursday, that you do have those options. And I'm hoping there are some connecting pieces to that shopping in downtown as well. And then very uncommon, I think in my recent surveys, that I see Sunday as an option here, but it does seem like people are shopping on Sunday. And so again, we use this as a tool to take a look and say, within our downtown district, How are our businesses telling the customers that they're open, especially when they shop? Let's take a look at the next one, and then we get into the time of the day most frequently shopped. And the first place is for 1 through 5 in the afternoons, from 1 through 5. And then in your community, more than 40% responded to that. After 5, it's another 25%. And then, throughout the day between 9 and 1, it goes into about 15% as well. Not a lot of response in the early morning. So looking at this again, just another tool to work with businesses and say, are we open? When are we open? What's the best opportunities? For many people that, again, have commutes, we want to start working with the businesses to be open later if possible. And that often starts with a day of the week that you're all agreeing to, and you already have the first Fridays. So if that is successful, that's already a tool to invite the community to consider another day, and then another day until your downtown is open for everybody that either comes back home or wants to have dinner and shop. So those are opportunities, again, that we wanted to highlight from the community's input. The next, it's about where people live. About more than 60% of the responses came telling us that they do live in Adrian, not necessarily in downtown, but somewhere else in Adrian. And then about 25% responding that they live in the county. I always get happy when I see people from the county responding to surveys from a community, because that means your community is getting their attention. Either they work here, or I can see that the county has an influence of people here. And of course, that's the case for you. Looking at not many people live in downtown or outside the county. So let's take a look at the next one. If you could, would you live downtown? And not surprising, you're not alone. Many people tell us at the beginning of our efforts in Main Street that that's a no. Why? Either because they're happy living where they are, or either because they think downtown is not a place to live at this time. And then we track that from year to year until we see the response changing. And then the trend is going to be that people really want a place to live downtown because it's the place to be. And so that, again, is another tool that helps us measure success from one year to the next. When we look at the next piece of information, it's about just understanding a little bit more about the responses. And so when we see that people work somewhere else in the community, that is more than a third. In other words, 1 out of 3 people that responded to this survey also live in your community. So indeed, we can say that this was a community survey. Many of them, about more than 20%, were students, and about 20% are retired. So you can see the diversity of between retirees, students, young and older, and people that live in the community and in other areas surrounding it as well. When we look at volunteering regularly, that's also another important piece you're going to take into consideration. But let me compare this question that was asked to the communities, as well as the community responses, as well as to the youth. And so the community, let's take that, look at that chart. The first 5 places in mind when they responded, what type of businesses? Let me correct my statement. The first 5 types of businesses people thought about with regards to downtown that they would like to see more of is, for the community survey, it was clothing. The second one was coffee shops or bakery. The third one, bookstore. The fourth one, entertainment, and pub and restaurant. That's the 5th. When you look at the youth survey, the first one is clothing. So right there, you have a common theme in both youth and community in general. But also then for the youth, the second place is entertainment, and coffee shops or bakery, another common ground, restaurants, and the opportunities to look at, did I say entertainment and restaurants? Very common grounds, great opportunities to say, if we do this, we're going to get this, both market sectors. So those are important opportunities to consider when people are thinking on what they would like to see in downtown. These are some of the area, the uses. These are some of the products and services that they are sharing with us. Any thoughts or questions at this time? Surprises? No? Very good. Okay, yes.
Well, entertainment, for example, audience is important to consider what the community versus youth might find good
Mhm.
entertainment. So I think just trying to be all things for all people versus honing in on your niche.
Right.
It's difficult.
Right. And considering that you do have about 20% of the community survey responding that we're youth or young people, also will be an important piece on saying, okay, what do we have in common? At first, when resources are limited, but it's important to be strategic and saying, what's consensus? What are the common themes that we can really say, if we do this, we have as much as we can both sides. But you're right. While some people might come, the older generations might come to the Roswell Theater for one type of entertainment, Roswell will also offer the youth a different type of entertainment, right? So that's how we work with our venues. We work with our businesses to say, let's take a look and see how is it that we can not only promote to our market, but also continue to look at expanding our markets if possible, like clothing, right? And not an easy item to have. Retail is not easy, especially with the opportunities to shop online. So now more businesses are looking not just at products and services and goods, but it's more about the experience we offer people that they cannot have if they shop online. But online shopping is not about to end. It's here to stay. So the opportunity is for businesses also to be in tune and also connected to e-commerce. And those are opportunities like we have. Main Street America partnered with GoDaddy. If you know, that's basically where you get websites to create a tool, because we knew that from surveying the businesses that many of our businesses still don't have, throughout COVID and everything, don't have a presence online enough to say that they can sell a product online. And so we created a tool that is free to businesses, and Main Streets can promote it. That is mainstreetonline.org. And in Spanish, there will be a version coming soon as well. But yes, these are opportunities to say, what do we have in front of us that can be part of our recruitment efforts as part of our strategy? Let's take a look at the next piece and saying, with the youth, what activities would you like to have in downtown? And that's where it goes to entertainment, perhaps more closely, when we see their number one is games. No surprise here, right? But then we go into almost looking at movies and events. They like music, they like sport events, and they like and appreciate art. And to a lesser degree, about 20%, then comes sculptures. So again, you have some of that already going. And the question is, how do we work with our organizations, our schools, so that a lot of that can be downtown if possible. Okay, let's take a look and see. Now we've gathered information from the community. Now we went and did a little bit of research on, if we drive, we say 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 30 minutes, what do we have? So that if I put myself in this point and say, if I drive 5 minutes in each direction, what is here that people come to for, and what is not here that people have to drive away to get, whether shoes or clothing or food, what is it? So we put 3 options there. So if I drive 5 minutes, and believe me, last night I was trying to check and saying, am I 5 minutes from the town? Am I 15 minutes? in my 30 minutes, but you know better than I can try. So 5 minutes, imagine, in those circles and saying, how far did you drive? And I knew that in 2 minutes, I could go from downtown to the other side, right? And vice versa. 5 minutes, then it's a shorter drive. I think it's to your sign that says, welcome to Adrian. So there's a lot done within the 5-minute range, but 15 minutes and 30 minutes, that's basically where we say, how far is our reach or how far is our gap? So with that in mind, we went and tried to do a little bit of that research that will be shared with you as well in complete form. So let's take a look at that. In 5 minutes from the central point in downtown, we have about 17,782 people. About the median age of that group is about 34 years old. And about 2 members per family, and an income, median income of about 37,000. Then you can get into the details. What's the percentage that has had high school, education, etc.? What are the number of employees? And you are reaching almost 10,000 people just within those 5 minutes. Does this market look strong to you? I believe that is a strong market just to start 5 minutes within its reach. Question is, what do we have competing with downtown within those 5 minutes, right? And when we look at the 15-minute range, if we drive longer in 15 minutes, we are going to find about 50,000 people and a little bit higher in median income. And of course, more than double in the number of employees or workforce and income, et cetera. And so those are opportunities to say, okay, so how far is our reach? How far do we think between local and now, nearby? And then when we go 30 minutes, if you want to hit again, that's the opportunity to then take a look and say, okay, so it's going to be how many people? Let's go for that. Okay, so it's then 123,000 people is the reach within 30 minutes. And then we get into what's the difference in the workforce. It's about 40,000 people working in that area. And now at about 55,000 in median income. Again, just trying to say, if I had a business in downtown, how far is my reach when I look at 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 30 minutes? That's the type of work your Main Street program will do through your efforts of working with the business and saying, are we reaching that? And what can we do to reach more? Or, what do we do to distinct ourselves in the marketplace? Let's take a look at the age demographics between the past decade, but more importantly, in the future. The projections is, as you can take a look at this, it's not noticeable as clearly there, but go ahead, Michelle, is that when we look at your youth, again, right now at 21%, depending on the age bracket, we see the changes that potentially the family structure can have within the next 5 years. And again, depending on where our businesses are working with regards to their markets, we're gonna see that decline or that increase, depending on age. And again, these are tools that we're hoping the Main Street program will use to work with businesses, so the businesses are not just looking at somebody coming at their door and saying, I don't know where they're coming from, but I'll throw my money up and see what comes back. It's about making informed decisions with your businesses so that all together we can really make downtown strong in their marketplace as well. And so the youth is an important part of your community's demographics and something that we need to be very mindful of. As well, looking at your community's diversity with regards to race or ethnicity. That's an important piece considering what you've had in 2010 and how it's increased in 2021. And it's about to be projected to stay the same in the next 5 years. And so when we look at the Hispanic population in your community, 1 out of 5 people are Hispanics. So I do anticipate when I look at the downtown, I can see that. And of course, as I drive in and out of downtown, I see that presence. That is projected to be the same, but you notice that it's stronger in your 5 minutes range versus your 15 and your 30 minutes. And so you have a strong base, a very diverse base. How can we leverage that? What are the positives of that diversity? And how can we build something that makes us stronger than our surroundings because of that diversity? So those are opportunities to say that communities have your history, your local heritage, but when we see increased demographics, increased diversity, we know you can have additional opportunities to enrich the experience of the consumer in your community as well. Let's take a look then at what comes or goes between the needs. Overall, when we look at industry by subsector, when you look at the, I guess I'm looking to my right here, and that's the leakage. In other words, what's leaving us because they don't find it here, right? Within 5 minutes, what's coming here or that we have and people can get it in our community or within the 5 minutes. Of course, that's not necessarily just downtown, because within 5 minutes, you also have the other business space surrounding downtown. But then when you look at the 15-minute, you can see that the leakage continues to exist, the surplus diminishes as we go farther. So in many ways, you can say you have a strong market within your 5 minutes reach. And so the question would be, what's the market for downtown? Because we know that as you expanded your community, basically that expanded the business space. So within those 5 minutes, what do we have and how do we put downtown in the map for products and services people can find here? That will be the task for the Main Street program. Let's take a look then at the Tapestry segmentation. I have fun actually looking at this because I attach it to, if you allow me, to kind of consumer personalities, if you can say that. These are basically, this is information that has been gathered that groups us as consumers, okay? So pretty much because of my credit card usage, people know what I like and what I don't like. Many of your businesses also can see the point of sale and the use of credit cards and say, oh yeah, I know what my customer likes and how often they shop, how often they eat. And so we're grouped in what it's called tapestry segments or segmentation. And I call it, consumer personalities. In this community, 73% of your population is grouped in 5 segments and tapestries. That tells me that there's a taste for everything here. It's a lot bigger than in many communities. And then just 24%, the rest of that is another 5. So wow, while you might like one flavor of food, you have plenty of more people that will like something else. And so just by looking at that, then I take a look and saying, okay, which one is the biggest segment? And I see that a third goes into what is called hometown heritage. And so what we want is to learn, what does that mean? And what is that telling us and our businesses that we can pay attention to understand our market conditions and our market opportunities. The next 13% will be in traditional living. That again, those are fun names that this data gathering systems give our consumers. And then the Roswell Traditions is the next sector. And so you can definitely research all of them because they are easy to be found. But just to give you a sense, these are an opportunity in the next slide where we take a look and saying, what does that mean? When a third of your households really falls into the hometown heritage. This basically tells us that the group is smaller, it's a smaller market, primarily a family market where married couples, with or without children and single parents are within this group. They are mindful of price. They are mindful of budgets. So products and services need to be priced accordingly. And so the labor force participation is lower than other groups. So we have to take a look and saying, if this is a third of our households, how is downtown responding to those needs? And take a closer look and see if that's an opportunity to expand our market or be attentive to their needs. Looking at the next one, traditional living, are a group of consumers that are also mindful of price, but more also attentive to quality, to brand loyalty. And so again, when we start looking at our tapestries, we start understanding our consumers. This is something we're going to do with businesses. Hopefully they know that, but if not, these are information, pieces of information we can use to come together and saying how well are we reaching our markets. The next one is about Roswell Traditions. And again, this is a group that is more traditional. It is really definitely interested in budget, but really attached to the American product and the opportunities to show pride in shopping local as well. So just to give you an example of more tools to gather input that is going to help us understand the programming for the Main Street program. Continuing to look at that, we not only look at what the market is telling us, then we come and take a look at your community. You worked very hard at improving the appearance of your downtown. We can see that. The sense of place that is perceived in the evening, as well as during the day, the opportunities and amenities you have created throughout the year, the signature locations and places, the organizations that are here also working to look at the arts, making sure your preservation efforts are maintained. You have a rich built environment that provides you a strong sense of place. In addition, you are rich in your surroundings and natural resources and amenities. And so really a great package that can capture the attention of hopefully locals. Although sometimes as locals, we don't value what we have until somebody else tells us about it, right? Or we go somewhere else. I live in San Antonio, Texas. And often people know what they can expect when I say San Antonio, right? Riverwalk, Alamo. And so we're very proud of our culture and our traditions. And I am very proud when I see communities also proud of their local environment. You also have the First Fridays that you have created to really start building that base of people coming downtown and enjoying time, and to hopefully attach that to the businesses being open during First Fridays, depending on the location for First Fridays, and start building that sense of, oh, downtown is alive. Downtown has something to happen, and grow from there. When we look at this, then we're saying, let's take a look at that third part. We looked at the vision or the community's input. We look at the market information. And of course, I threw a lot at you all at once, but as we go into work planning, as we go into meeting and bringing the businesses together, all these pieces of information will be brought to the table as appropriate. What we see is the opportunity to leverage that downtown can be positioned as the community gathering place and as a hub or center for the arts and culture. Everything else that you have surrounding downtown is just anywhere else in America. Nothing special. Forgive me for saying that. Maybe it's my bias towards downtowns. But to be honest, when you look at your unique sense of place, that describes that this community has a strong local identity and strong character. To me, that sense of arrival, that I've arrived somewhere special, needs to be leveraged with that historic character, with that identity. Also, that this could be the place as a destination for the locals as well as the visitors. It's for special occasions. A lot of that input that the community highlighted is those lights for Christmas, the tree, how downtown feels during the Christmas season. Why? Because everything is a component of that Americana experience, right? That opportunity to say that I am here in a place that we can all gather and feel like we're home. That is a welcoming place. All of that sense of place is important. We also believe that your downtown can be positioned as the third place. And for those of you who are wondering what that means, the first place is home. The second place is work. The third place is where we want to go and hang out, enjoy, and just have fun. And downtown can definitely be that place for you. When we look at the Roswell and other arts forms, when we look at activities for all ages, when we think of space, public space activation, and when we look at your diverse demographics, communities, the Hispanic communities, that's basically an opportunity to say, how do we leverage that inclusion and that feeling that everybody can enjoy downtown? And then to really have engaging opportunities for the community to participate as well. Then the sense of vitality. This space in downtown really is highlighting that something can be solid here, that a business can do well here. We need to create that environment. We need to foster that environment with a balanced mix of food and businesses that actually provide as much as possible, not just a product, but experiences. Experiences that make you feel like this is the place to hang out, the place to be, the welcoming place. We believe you have a strong base for your downtown. And we are very, very happy to be your partners and to start this process. So tomorrow with the board, we're going to start taking a look at what this means for all of you. And then you are going to decide if this fits and makes sense. If you have questions, we're going to try to answer them, but then develop that strategy as identified, and then take a look and see how you can shape it into a work plan, an implementation for a year, 3 years, the next 5 years. We're here to be your partners. We really appreciate the opportunity to highlight how much potential you have. I've been working with Michigan Main Streets for the past almost 15 years. I am so happy to arrive in your community. You have a lot to be proud of. Let's get things done through your Main Street with your support and partnership. So thank you very much. Welcome any questions. Yes.
Incorporated in this plan, there will be a means by which we absorb our current talent and blend it into our service. I know we've been doing it with the college students. Is more fortunate enough to have 3 colleges to gather some of the youth. I know we'll reach even to those younger than the college students, but if we're going to use some of the resources that we already have to fill the gap, that will be a good place to start. But will you be giving us some examples on how to capture even more than just the college students.
Yes, by all means, we'll not only share what we know, but also hopefully connect you to others that have gone through similar experiences. What we're going to do is work with you to really take a look at what's achievable within a specific time frame. Not everything can be done at once, and we believe in Main Street as an incremental approach. Let's start with low-hanging fruit and then go and into more. So we value what we have right now and then expand from there. So just like you're saying, you're really rich with regards to the college and the school system. And so that is definitely an asset. Let's take a look then at that 17% of, that is older than 65 but wants to enjoy downtown. How is the family format and how can we make it friendly, not only for the youth, but all types of formats with people's life?
Are there retail associations so that although, or retailers may compete against one another, but if there aren't other retailers down here, nobody's going to shop down here. So if they gather and share their resources, it would seem that they have an advantage to share with one another and to help one another, at least at some level.
Yes.
I feel bad when they're so far apart from each other and they aren't in the same block. People don't always get to one another if they're over there and they're over there.
And that's a good point. Through Main Street, what we want is businesses to understand the potential they have of working together and to really leveraging resources, right? And understanding that where we start is our small business base is usually very independent minded. They have been they've started their business by themselves. They've been working for themselves. And so they tend to think that they need to be doing things themselves. What we want is to convey to them that by working together and coming together, they have a strength in numbers. For many years, actually decades, economic development for communities was very focused on large businesses. If we put all the businesses together from downtown here in Adrian, you have potentially a very large employment base. And so with that in mind, then the businesses that work together can come to the city leadership and the county and saying, hey, you've supported economic development in the past. Now support economic development with support to small businesses as well and fill the gaps and build that partnership for small businesses in this community as well. Yes, hopefully the ones that are in downtown will come together with common grounds of what they can do together, but also the ones that are surrounding, hopefully we'll see that benefit as well.
I have a question. A lot of the transformation strategy is built off of like a common vision. We've gotten together and discussed like a visioning. We had a few like informal and talked about like building a formal strategic plan that is informed with a lot of the market research that you spoke about. Will you help assist in that process as well? Because those are what, if I'm gathering what you're saying, those are two separate things, right? Our transformation strategy is different than our maybe organizational strategic plan.
Well, and hopefully complementing each other, but
Correct,
yes, that's the next step. As you all discussed this, suggestion or recommendation, what's coming next is Michigan Main Street will come back and then work with you to confirm a vision that aligns with that strategy and the goals that you want to outline for the plan. And then plan the work and work the plan throughout a year. But the transformation strategy should be a strategic direction for the next 3 to 5 years. And so with that in mind, your programming will be defined. Then is the how, right? How do we get organized? I'm hoping you see yourself and saying, we cannot do it all as a Main Street program, right? So how do we engage the community through different task forces, teams, committees? And that's, again, a support system that the Main Street team in Michigan will work together with you. And you'll see Lee often through those efforts as well. So
Thank you.
mm-hmm. Other questions or comments?
the information and the research that you have, is that available for us to share with other business owners that couldn't be here tonight?
Yes, yes. The information, the question is if the information we have will be available. That information will be shared with your Main Street Board or DDA board. That information should be available to businesses. It's a lot of information. So hopefully, take pieces and try to digest it. And we'll be happy to, I always ask, if you have skills locally that can help you go through that information, more than happy to leverage that, please. Because market research is definitely something that, needs a little bit digesting. But if you'd have it, then definitely bring the businesses together and work with them so they can have that information accessible as well. Yeah, so this information will be, including the information from the community's input as well.
And will that not be one of the tasks of the Main Street Director as well, to be communicating that information?
Great, thank you. Yes, highlighting that the opportunity for the Main Street to really have a program director that will connect the dots and work with all of you, work as a team with the board, but also work with you as businesses, property owners, and as residents to say, how can we do this all together? Very much so, thank you. Yes.
First off, I'd like to thank you for all the information that you put together. That really was quite a lot and very appreciated. And I really do want to commend our city. I've been not a native of Adrian, but for the last 11 years, I've seen a dramatic change. And so much of it has been incredible. Our downtown has grown immensely. And it's due to these people up here. Honestly, I've seen just fantastic things happen and changes. Some of the information that you gave, my concerns are $36,000 a year median income. That's poverty level for all of downtown. I know I've operated a business for 9 years. I didn't even show up on their radar, primarily because 70% of my customers are not even from this area. And I have a very healthy business. I own over 25,000 square feet of prime real estate right downtown. So it's a significant chunk. And I don't know how your plan is going to address that huge poverty line. I mean, we can put all the businesses downtown we want, but if they can't thrive, there's no reason to have that. If you don't address the horse that's got to pull the cart.
Very good point. Thank you. Let me address first appreciation for the leadership. Thank you so much for saying that. I think, again, Main Street comes sometimes not at the beginning, right? It's basically just bringing a framework that we can use together. So I appreciate that the leadership has been pioneering in this. We often say that about 20-25%, hopefully more in your community, are the visionaries that don't have anything to show, but dream about what can happen. And those are the ones that need to lead the effort. And so keep bringing those visionaries. But about 60 or 70% more of the community has to see something to believe in it. Oh, that's what you meant, they're going to say. And they're going to be on board when you start showing. And it seems like you're starting to show, you've been showing. So that's great to see. So we definitely want the visionaries and the people that can see that potential is possible here. You are right as far as within 5 miles or minutes, within 15 minutes and within 30 minutes. We didn't even mention that, the many businesses that probably bring from outside or that through e-commerce are making possible the extension of your downtown reach. And so that's going to be important. I believe that, diversity is not just in the race and ethnicity, but also in the way that we approach businesses. And that's why it's so important to work together, because while some businesses in downtown will be able to provide to the needs of that base between 5, 15 and 30 minutes, perhaps even longer, others, like you're saying, you're bringing from miles away. And so that is healthy. That is important. And we need to foster more of that, because downtown cannot depend on just the one base But you're right as far as how do we address that? It's incrementally. And it's not just done by Main Street, but basically through Main Street, through your downtown, you're going to see that quality of life increasing year by year. And it is done through leadership that looks at downtown as a priority so that you can see it's the picture of your community. And it has to be done through other organizations that are addressing the needs of the community as well. And so again, I believe that it's a collective effort. While some businesses are really helping us raise, the opportunity of saying what's the expense that people can make in downtowns, the purchases, et cetera. Others in the community have to supply for those specific needs. So it's going to be healthy to see how diverse is your business base. And that between all of you have a reason for anybody locally, but also outside of your community to come and shop here that perhaps is unique as a destination. So in many ways, it's passionate work that will take years in the making. We're not saying this is going to be done tomorrow, but what can be done between this year that could be achievable so that people have more opportunities. When industry looks at your downtowns and say, people will like, my employees will like to do business here because downtown is looking like it's a place where it's enticing, welcoming, et cetera, then more industry will be attracted for you to, for them to come here. That's how you're going to start addressing the opportunities to push that, median income to a higher level. And hopefully it's not going to be surrounding your community only, but really in your community that you're going to have opportunities to grow. Collective efforts with several organizations need to be involved. So not a straight answer, not a solution for tomorrow.
One of my other concerns is I sit on the board of directors for Midwest Energy Communications. We are in the process of building a $14 million new facility. We had a facility here in Adrian. We're selling that facility. We chose not to build in Adrian for specific reasons. It was not inviting. It was not advantageous. I was not part of that decision. I came onto the board after those decisions had been made. But I asked why. I love this town. I want this town to flourish. But those are 50 jobs, brand new, high-paying jobs that are now not going to be located in Adrian because of a culture or because of decisions that were made, and now leaving Adrian and are now going to be located outside of Tecumseh.
And that is an opportunity to then say, to work with partners like city, county, and state to say, what are we doing to address some of the concerns, not only by organizations and corporations like that, but also by the community, the members that highlighted why they don't come downtown or why they come. Sometimes it's only in the perception, not necessarily in the reality. When I drive through your downtown and I come and see, the paper on the windows, those are easy solutions. Working with property owners and business owners to say, instead of making it look like that, let's make it appealing, right? Sometimes there are perceptions, sometimes there are realities that we need to address. What are the realities? For somebody from the outside, I am eager to go back home and say to my husband, you know what, it's a beautiful place to go to. But maybe your residents, through this information, are giving you a lot of opportunities to consider what are some of those perceptions and realities that we need to address. And it is not just the city, it's the county, the state, and organizations that are locally looking to solve some of the challenges that we need to come together and making sure that we're not working on silos. So very good point. Thank you for highlighting. Those are important pieces that, again, we need to address when you're saying somebody's leaving us for what. We need to be attentive to that. Other comments or questions? Yes.
So what do you say to companies that are coming into this area and building new industry, but then not using local vendors?
I would say that is a really important opportunity to bring those companies together and saying, it starts with us. change is a constant. It's going to happen. The question is if we want change to happen the way we know it has to bring or could bring positive transformation, or if we let change happen to us. Companies that basically bring industry need to be fostering that local support and that local purchasing, local employment, etc. Let's build that culture. Let's be proud of that localized culture. Not only do you have a beautiful historic downtown your pioneers built for you, but also you have an opportunity to tell everyone in the community, this is your downtown, this is your community. You're doing business here, let's support local. Through COVID, we've seen that change in our mindsets. More and more people are valuing local. Let's make it a culture that stays with us. To say, if you do not support local, how can we complain about the roads? How can we complain about how downtown looks? How can, when we don't support that, making sure that we look good, that their quality of life is reflected. It comes back to everybody. It comes back to all of us, especially the industry. If you are able to support local, it comes back to you as revenue, as income, as a labor force that is ready to stay, as more labor force that is willing to come, etc. So it hopefully is a culture we can promote. Others?
Yes, one question.
Mhm.
Now that we have a pretty exhaustive starting point here, pardon my voice, springtime allergies are not my friend. Are you able to maybe even at the national level direct us to similar communities who started kind of where we are today and maybe there are 5-10 years in the future so that way we can actually reach out to them directly if we're having certain issues along the path and figure out what they did that was a success?
Mhm. We'll start with the communities that are your sisters, sister programs in Michigan. There are plenty of those that you can, and we hope you go and visit. And communities that are now standing as example of downtown revitalization across the country. Howell, Michigan is one. Old Town Lansing is another. Bowen City is another. And then we look and say, okay, what are the ones that, yes, do come closer to who you are with regards to population, perhaps density in downtown building stock, uses, et cetera, river, et cetera. What amenities are similar, and then perhaps put that into more of a comparison table so that they can help you see and share their perspectives about success, also about lessons learned. What should we not consider because somebody else learned it first? And but then we do have examples from communities across the country. And I was just hearing from Lee, for example, that staff from coordinating programs across the country are getting together to network, whether it's, the specialists, the coordinators get together often as well. So we're all trying to network with each other. And we definitely have some examples to highlight to you, whether, it's about a specific project or in general. That will be part of that network. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make some comments. So I've been involved over the last 9 years, almost 10 years now, with a group of local investors in buying and rehabilitating 3 downtown historic buildings. To those buildings, we brought ourselves new retail. So one had an existing retail. Anyway, two of the buildings, we brought new retail downtown. I think the one thing that's lacking here is not the will for private investment. I'm looking at private investors, private investors, private investors, private investors, private investors who are investing in this downtown. What is lacking here, and this is not easy for me to say, is a partnership with the city,
Okay.
whether it be the DDA or city administration or city commission we're just not all together on the same wavelength. And every day, it seems to me that Tecumseh, a little town to the north, eats our lunch, better retail. They just have a better plan than we do.
Okay.
And it's frustrating because I lost what I thought was a very good business for retail business for one of my buildings because I just couldn't get any support, not only from the city, but also from our countywide economic development group to help us put that together. So I get frustrated by this. And I know other people in town, I may be pointing at one of them, that's also frustrated. Because if we don't work together, I don't know who said this, maybe Margaret or somebody. You go on North Main Street, there's one retail operation, okay, maybe two. How many people are not going to walk around the corner to come down to the other ones if we don't have more retail? We did a retail study here about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's on the shelf. I'm sorry for saying that. One of the best retail minds in the country did the study and told us what we should do. And why are we not saying, I'd like to buy another building right now, okay? I'm about to sell my third building, I think. It's not mine, it's other people too, but I'm a managing partner. And I'd like to buy another building, but I want some help in getting the right retail in that building. I don't want another attorney. I don't want another insurance agent. I might take a video so they can see.
How about a financial plan?
What did you say? What did Dusty say?
Another financial planner. We have the best one.
Financial planner.
But,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No.
Got to work together.
Thank you for saying that because I'm sure the DDA board has heard it. Main Street is about public and private partnerships, public and private sector coming together to work in partnerships. The designation as a Main Street community is based on that commitment. And so if it hasn't happened before, this is about to start then. The opportunity to say, with property owners, we say, please be strategic in the use of your space. Think of that is not just your investment. You're the steward for the community's identity. So what you put in your space is meaningful, more than anybody, at the edge of town. It's so important because that building needs to be used strategically. To the city leadership, the county leadership, the public sector, and other partners, we say, please come together as well, and let's incentivize development and disincentivize neglect. And that's the opportunity to change the formula that we've used in the past to say, if the property owner doesn't do anything, nothing happens. But if they develop, the taxes go up, right? And so how do we really incentivize? And if the incentive is about working together, let's work together on that. It's in many ways, if the investor is willing to invest, but they just need a friendly environment to process and get things done quickly, then let's take a look at efficiencies. Now, we all have done things the same way in many ways, and somebody has to come and tell us that to do it differently, right? Well, Einstein said that it's insanity to expect something different, right? By doing the same thing all the time. And so that's an opportunity to say that with the city, with the county, often I have to say, we have the commitment of cities in Main Street. Sometimes I have to push and say, counties, let's start taking a look at downtown revitalization and support it, please, because you benefit from that. It should be in your mission, and we just need to make sure that counties are also supported, especially when they are the ones leading economic development efforts. And so if they've supported industry recruitment, let's start supporting small business recruitment as well. And that is the force that makes America run every day. So it still needs a lot of support. So the business space definitely needs support, the property owners, but Main Street will be about working together between public and private sector at all levels possible. So thank you for mentioning that. If that is not happening here, I know the will is there. So because you've all committed to Main Street, so that tells us that we will be encouraging that we will be working with you to see how you can compare efforts done by other cities as well. And in any part of the country that, if you need examples as well. Very good. Other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'd like to make a few comments. So when I understand the frustrations. I've been around the downtown for 20+ years and even before that. And I hope with the efforts that we've made at the DDA level and the great partnership we have with the city and the commissioners and the administration and the like, that we've actually achieved this select level status. I think this is the moment of change. This is where things don't happen like they did in the past. This is the moment where we create these transformational strategies for ourselves and for our community, and we start to act on good information. And we provide that good information to our business owners, and we start to build great relationships. So if I can just, for this moment forward, it is the positive energy that will make us move forward in the fastest fashion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Definitely. This is about being in it together, and really appreciate the participation and the attendance of property and business owners, investors, and you leaders as we start this Main Street effort. Again, you're not alone. This is an opportunity to say you are supported by more than 1,400 communities designated across the country. Really, we know that more than 2,000 have been using Main Street throughout the country as well. So there's plenty of best practices and lessons learned. But more importantly, it's about how you can come together and make sure that that local power is something that you leverage so that this Main Street program can be successful at getting the results you want. So thank you so much for the opportunity. We thank you, and Michigan Main Street team and National Main Street will be your partners throughout this effort if we can be of support in the next few days. We are going to meet tomorrow to go through this information and see your how you digest it and go from there to decide the next steps. So thank you again.
Once again, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight and supporting the DDA Main Street program, the City of Adrian, and as we move forward with this Main Street project. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again for being here. And I really appreciate the support.
I actually have a question. Has the board already committed to this project? Or is this an opportunity?
We are already in the select level. We're just in the transformational stages.
Can you explain that a little further? I'm sorry.
Okay. Can you, yeah.
So the city went through a really robust application process to get into the select level. And so now as part of the select level, we're at the point where we're actually planning the work of what this DDA board is going to use using the Main Street framework. So this is the first step tonight in identifying the strategy based on what we heard from the community, what the market data is saying. And so now the next step is to develop goals and measures of success for that strategy. Then the last piece is developing all the projects and initiatives that the board will work on to implement the strategy that we heard tonight. Implementing the strategy is where you all come in, because there is going to be a committee structure that will allow volunteers to filter in and help implement the work. Does that make it clear?
Well, I wanted to confirm that the city's already committed to.
Yes.
The project. So the project that we did for, what was that, 7, 9 years ago, somewhere around there, that's just, we never did anything with that, I guess.
The strategic plan that is that what you're talking about? So that will actually be folded in the third step. So we'll look at that strategic plan and see all the different projects that were identified in that and fold them in underneath the strategy.
And just to highlight, that will be an opportunity. That will be an opportunity to also take a look at studies or done in the past to be able to say, does it still hold the same opportunity, or has the market changed? But if there are, like you're saying, bright minds that have helped us in the past, we're definitely not discounting that. We're going to take into consideration what has been done so we can start from that point and really get this plan together.
And will you have matrix for measurements for success and accountability, or if steps aren't taken?
Yes, that's exactly what the work plan is it identifies, once you identify all the projects and initiatives, each project will have its own work plan. The work plan will consist of tasks, accountability, timeline, budget, and measures of success. The board should not approve any work plans that don't meet the strategy, but also that they don't have funding and human capacity to complete. So those are kind of the accountability measures that will be built into place. Mhm. All the things you'll learn.
The agreement is for the next 5 years, we'll work together to ensure that year by year, we do have accountability and measures of success to see how things are progressing. What did we learn? We're all imperfect, so there might be some things that we learn from those efforts and needs adjustments, but throughout the next 5 years, hopefully we'll establish the strong foundation for this effort for downtown.
All right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, sure.
What kind of budget have they approved for this project?
It's the full DDA budget. So I don't know exactly what the expenses and revenues look like, but it should be publicly available. So it's the full DDA budget. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to elaborate a little bit more. Brad is the trustee treasurer.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. So like our full DDA budget, I believe might even be posted online, maybe posted online. But anyway, if you ever come to a DDA meeting, which is held on second Wednesday morning of every month at 8 a.m. right here, we have full paperwork sitting on the podium there that you're welcome to take, and you can look over our entire budget.
Are you referring to this project as in us joining Main Street? Is that what you're referring to? As far as I'm aware, there's no cost to.
Yeah.
This is just a
yeah.
transformation of our board to adopt these standard practices and processes.
That's a really
That's
good
all.
point of clarification is, yes, our technical assistance from Michigan Main Street, National Main Street costs the city nothing, costs the DDA nothing. In fact, we actually spend our money to help further along your community. But all we ask is that the DDA then adopts the framework of Main Street, utilizes the DDA budget to implement the Main Street approach.
Like hiring a director.
Exactly, like hiring a full-time director, having the committee structure, having a transformation strategy that guides the work that you're doing.
And we've already made significant strides in our budget to start to align with this program that we've elected to apply for.
Question over here.
I started coming to the DDA meetings as a citizen and then became a city commissioner, but I want to reiterate to everyone who may not know, these are all volunteers.
Yes.
They don't get paid anything for all of the work that they are doing. And they use very carefully the money that is given to them through the city, through DDA, all this tax stuff that is donated to them. But I want to thank you for moving us from that DDA level to the Main Street level. And as far as I'm concerned, the city is committed to moving us forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Meredith.
Anything else?
Yes, hello?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to go back to Kevin's point. This isn't costing us anything, and the DDA board has spent years, I think, working towards applying for this select level and pulling together the things that we needed to do in order to make Michigan Main Street's resources available to the city of Adrian's DDA. So this is something that we strove for a while, and I think that's just an important element of it. It's not something that we're voting to adopt or purchasing off the shelf or anything like that.
Actually, I'll put it in another way, is the opportunity cost for not being at the select level. There's 24 cities in the state of Michigan that are represented in the Main Street program. As I became more familiar with it, we got, there's access to so many grants and so many processes and so much technical assistance that we're not even aware of, that our eyes are starting to open to. There's opportunities abound as we start looking at the major projects in downtown and the assistance we'll need from the MEDC and from all the state agencies. They show favor to Main Street programs because they know it works, and they know if we adopt it and do it the right way, that we're going to be effective and that their dollars won't go to waste. So if it just wanted to make that point, that it was costing us before we became a Main Street.
And to that point, Dusty, they don't just give this to anyone. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in us in setting the way to make Adrian more Adrian through this plan.
I work in marketing at Visit Lenawee, and we have several small business owners and entrepreneurs who have already benefited from just a small program that I reached out to Lee about a couple of times. And it's education for small entrepreneurs to get businesses going, to get their business plans, to get strategic plan building. And that was all free. It was just, Lee sent me a link and I passed it on to some of our entrepreneurs. So we've already seen the benefit, and it's only been, a few weeks that we've been in contact, so.
I'd just like to also reach out to each one of you here. You're clearly here because you have a passion for our downtown and an interest in the future. And if you have any questions or anything about Main Street, how it's being applied here locally, and what immediate action steps are being taken, every second Wednesday of the month at 8 o'clock, we do have our DDA meetings. They're open to the public, and they're about the most fun thing you can do at first thing in the morning on a Wednesday. So feel free to stop and by.
And I'll even go one step further than that, is if you want to get your hands dirty and join the work of this board, please join a committee once we have the projects and initiatives identified. And with that, I think we should wrap it up. Thank you, everyone.
I am.